Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. Hi, preschool peeps.
Hi, peeps.
We really hope you enjoyed our last episode, which was so much fun.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. Today, a little more serious, but not like sad.
Uber serious.
Yeah, not uber serious, not the big serious.
Yeah.
So welcome back. We hope that you've gone to YouTube and checked out the QR code that is now in our background on the screen and held your camera up to it and then tapped on the website it names and check that out. That's all we're going to say about it at this point. So please go check that out. And also we want to thank people who are listening from around the world in the country. Go ahead.
Romania. So hello, everyone in Romania.
Hello.
And Omaha, Nebraska.
So you people in Romania and Omaha, Nebraska who are listening, we thank you and we want you to spread the word.
Yes.
Now the onus is on you. And speaking of a good onus, speaking of like a hot topic and a good onus, we're here to talk about something, we've talked about large group in the past. We're here to talk about large group.
We've talked about it a lot, honestly. If we're being honest.
We've talked about large group, but I don't think we've talked about it in this way.
No, I don't think so.
And so we wanted to bring something to your attention that actually one of my college students brought to the attention of the class, and I loved it. And I said, I'm going to, I really want to talk about this on the podcast. Yeah. And that's what should we be focusing our large group on? And this student said something that I thought was really interesting, the way that she looks at large group. So when we're talking about large group, we're talking about what you may call circle time, morning meeting, end of day large group, right? Whatever you call your large group end of day meeting, which you should be having. But also large groups can be read-alouds. When you've gathered a large group to go outside and you're all walking together, when you are kind of all just kind of
eating.
Yeah,
Eating
that's a large group activity.
It's a large group activity.
So I want you to think about not only the morning meeting, but all your others, particularly when you're reading to children. Yeah. Because I don't know that we always focus this way. Sure. And what my student was talking about was the fact that she believes that these large group gatherings of young children should be always focused on moral development. So I'm going to read to you what AI says about moral development because I thought it was actually a really good definition.
Really good, yeah.
Artificial intelligence isn't always really great, but in this case I thought it was.
This time they were, yeah.
Okay. So according to the AI bots, moral development refers to the process by which individuals learn to distinguish between right and wrong, developing the ability to make ethical decisions based on their understanding of societal values and norms. And is important because it allows people to contribute positively to society by acting with empathy, fairness, and responsibility toward others. Now, when we work with children on things related to moral development, it sort of sets their moral compass for all the years to come, right? So if I'm thinking about what do I want to talk with children about in large group time, maybe we want to focus on the sort of problem solving that helps children distinguish between right and wrong.
Right, because I feel like if we're not going to focus on it in large group, when are they going to learn it? If we're not going to discuss these things, how are they going to learn it?
The benefit of talking about right and wrong with the whole group versus just one or two children is that everyone then has the opportunity to develop an understanding of what are the norms or what are the expected behaviors. Right. Norms are like the expected behaviors. What are they in a school? Because although a child may be exhibiting acceptable behavior, it doesn't mean they understand all the right and wrong in the norms.
Correct.
Right? So it gives everyone an opportunity to ponder this, and it gives the children a chance to problem solve together. As we've said probably in previous episodes, large group is a perfect time to talk about if there's been a dilemma, there's been a problem in your class, a social or emotional problem, to sit with the children with dolls or puppets and reenact it and talk about what is happening right now, what is the doll feeling, how can we help,
Yes.
right? The perfect time to do it because nobody's highly emotional because they're not in the middle of the
Right.
issue. But also, I want you to think about your read alouds. Let's think about what books we select for read alouds.
What do I select or what other people select?
What, generally speaking,
I mean, I do have some social. I do a lot of social emotional at morning meetings, so I do have some social emotional books. So, like Stick and Stone, I read because that's a good friendship book. I
I
have
love Stick and Stone.
The Rabbit Listened, which is just about being that sometimes somebody just wants you to listen. They don't need you to fix all the problems. They just need you to be there. That's one of my favorites. I love that book. But I think sometimes people focus more on theme-based books rather than social, emotional, moral development books.
Which is okay to do sometimes,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But also we need to be thinking about how many times this week did I read to these children a story that had a plot that focused on social, emotional, and moral development. And social, emotional, and moral development are intertwined because the ability to have empathy, to understand that other people have feelings and to understand their feelings, that's a social, emotional skill, and it is part of our moral development to develop empathy,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's part of how we become moral people,
Moral people, yeah.
to understand that we don't want other people to hurt.
Be hurt, yes.
In any way, emotionally or
Yes.
physically. You know, when I look at the definition, it also talks about acting not only with empathy, but with fairness and responsibility toward others. That whole fairness is a social skill,
Yeah.
right? But if we do a really good job of supporting the children's understanding of these social and emotional skills, that becomes the foundation, the underpinning for their moral development and how they're going to walk through this world. You know, I think this world would be a really great place if people were generous, not only with something like money, but also generous in spirit. Like, let's give people the benefit of the doubt, for example,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Let's try and see a situation from that other person's point of view, which is sorely lacking in this 2025 world.
Yeah.
No one, it seems to me, attempts to see anything from another point of view.
They don't. They really don't.
Folks.
They really don't.
You know what was an amazing social experiment for me? I don't know if I've described this to you before, Allison. It's an amazing social experiment to me. When I go to the gym and I walk on the treadmill at the gym,
Yeah.
there's in front of me, there's like this whole bank of television screens, right?
Yes.
And they're all on different channels.
Yes.
In the gym I go to, one set of political beliefs is over on the left-hand television.
Right, yes.
The other one is over on the far right-hand television. And it's not, by the way you think. The left is on the right and the right is on the left.
But still.
But to stand in the middle on
Yeah.
a treadmill and to look at the headlines here and the headlines there, you realize the different information we're all being fed, and that's what feeds into our different perspectives. And in order to combat that, we have to try to get to know what each other are thinking, right? In today's world, there's just this lack of trying to understand the point of view of other people and where it came from and what their lives were like and what helped them to develop that point of view.
Right.
We can help children to develop that in early childhood so that they develop a sense of other people feel differently than me. We can listen to and understand that other people can feel differently and accept that and not reject people
Right.
outright,
Right.
right? You know, when I think about moral development in the world, it has to do with generosity of spirit.
Yeah.
I'm not required to agree with anyone, nor are any of you listening or watching, right? We're not required to agree with anyone. We just have to understand that other people have different points of view because of their own personal experiences. And maybe we should learn about that.
Right.
Maybe we can start to set that up through the books we read, the conversations we have, to teach children. You know, when you're reading a book with young children that has a really good social, emotional, moral lesson, we should be talking about not only what was the plot and what was the lesson, but also how did the characters feel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How do you think this character felt?
And I feel like you can do that with almost every book. There's always something in any book that you read, whether it's a book meant for moral development or not, that you can stop at any point and be like, how do you think this character feels right now?
Right.
If you were in this situation, what would you do? how would you help this character? Or there's always questions that you can ask. You could turn it into a moral development lesson by reading books that are not necessarily geared towards moral development.
Yeah, you're right.
And
part of the definition was moral development includes feeling a sense of responsibility to others.
Yeah, that's something I talk about in my group a lot. And it usually is a group. It's like, how can we help this person?
Right.
Right? Like, here's
how do
something
we help this person feel better? How do we help? Yeah.
Or even if like, hey, here's what's happening at school. How can we make this situation better so that the entire school benefits sometimes? Which is hard for threes. But if you start talking about that now, they might have ideas that you didn't even think of, because they might say something. Or I think just getting them in the mindsets of this is stuff that we discuss because we want to help.
Right.
We want to help people. We want to help the people in this class. We want to help the people in the school. We want to help the school in itself. We want to help the class in itself. If you start them by talking about it, then it just becomes a normal thing. This is what we talk about. This is how we help. This is what we do. It's just now it's in their mind.
I feel like sometimes that whole notion of we're going to teach children that they have a sense of responsibility in society. And to each other.
Yeah.
Ends up being an event. Like once a year, we're going to collect items for the animal shelter, or once a year, we're going to collect food for the hungry.
Right.
And it becomes like an event.
Right.
Much less connected maybe to the children than the adults.
Right.
Who they are with.
Right, but it should really be an everyday thing.
It should be a constant thing.
One of the things that we talked about in my class was like, we have these people at the public school that help us. One of those people is the woman who makes our lunch for the cow. She works in the cafeteria. And I asked them, like, how can we make her feel better about doing her job every day, right? Because she works very, very hard to provide lunch for God knows how many people are in this school. And it was a simple answer of, why don't we just say thank you when we're leaving the cafeteria? We'll all stop by her little window and we'll all stop and we'll say, thank you, Miss Holly, and then we'll move on. And that was it. And that was their simple idea. We now do it every single day. Now I don't even have to remind them to do it. They just do it because it's become like the second nature thing. Like when people help you, you say thank you.
I love that.
So then it turned into not just her, like, how do we help the janitor? Like he helped us clean up a mess today. Like you make sure you say thank you to them. And it just became this thing. It doesn't have to be these big, huge events of like, we're collecting food for animals or like having a food drive for Thanksgiving. It could just be like,
and all those things are great and
it's
noble
wonderful,
and do them.
But they're not everyday
there needs
things.
to be like, we need to be giving intentional thought to when I have these children in a large group. How can I teach them about being part of a society? Because that's what a large group is, right?
Yeah.
Purpose of large group is to teach children they're part of a community.
Yes.
And here's how a community functions.
Right.
So instead of focusing so much on how their legs are when they're sitting,
Right.
Who cares? Who cares?
Who cares? They showed up.
Right. They're sitting. They're willing to sit and
Showed up.
They're willing to sit and pay attention. I don't really care how you're sitting.
Yes.
We've attached so much importance to things that don't matter. We've attached importance to how are they sitting? We've attached importance to how long they sit there. Folks, they have a tiny little attention span.
Yeah.
The average attention span of a 4-year-old is 8 minutes, just so you know.
Yeah.
That's all you got of their attention. Mm-hmm. We've attached importance to things that have very little meaning to the children, like today is, and making them recite a date.
Right. Like, who cares?
We think math belongs in this large group. No, it doesn't.
No, it
math
doesn't.
belongs in small group.
Yeah.
Okay. Any math lesson belongs in small group where they can work with manipulatives and really grasp it.
Hands-on stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we read books, I find that sometimes we focus, and it's true for me too, we focus more on, oh, here's the vocabulary in this book, or what's this picture showing you?
The reading comprehension part of it, of like, do you remember what we read? We read this book
the
yesterday.
recall.
The recall of it. Instead of focusing on the emotions, the characters, the social aspect of the book.
Correct.
You know, like...
So we need to be thinking, I think, every time we have a large group of children together, how can I support their understanding of being not functioning, but being a productive is a better word.
A productive member of society.
A productive member of society.
Yeah.
You know, I've often said, and I'm sure many of you have too, that school is a microcosm of society. It is like a little mini society where children can learn to function in a society.
Yes, it is.
So if these children are coming to school, part of our job is to teach them how to function in a society. I just don't know if we put that much intention into it all the time. I think we tend to focus around other things.
True. I think that's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So lots of attention to that from here on in, folks.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about the weeks coming, when you're lesson planning or you're reflecting on what's past, think about, like, did I support their ability to develop morality as part of a society?
Right.
Because it's everything we do is the foundation for their future. It's the underpinning for all their brain connections.
Yes.
So let's do a really good job this time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
With this generation. We hope, folks, that you will let us know what you're thinking, what you want to know, any topics that you would love to know if we could talk about on this podcast. So please do go to our website, which you can access through the QR code that's on YouTube. Allison's moving out of the way of it again. So you can access it through that QR code or simply by going to howpreschoolteachersdoit.com and contact us. We do attempt to get back to everyone who contacts us. So let us know what you're thinking, especially if it's productive and positive.
Even if it's not, it's okay.
All right. And we will catch you next time on the podcast.
Bye, peeps.